Hey, what's going on, guys? How's it going, everyone? We're going off. Yes, everything's going good. All right, we're live. How's it going for a little bit unusual time for me to be streaming for wherever you are in the world? It's on the weekend, which I don't usually do. Usually it's just on weekdays. And whatever time it is for you during the day, it may depend. It's either morning or night. Here it's Saturday night. Those of you who may be watching from the US, it'd be like Saturday morning. So, how's it going? This episode was supposed to be a week or 2 weeks ago, but I wanted to get some more entries in for my Patreon supporters. So, we delayed it a little bit, and then it was supposed to be yesterday, and I delayed it one more time till today. So, for those of you guys, my Patreon supporters who have been waiting again, just sorry to you guys for postponing it, but here we are. So, hopefully, those of you who did submit some works are here hanging out watching live, so you can we can have a bit of a conversation about it. I know through you guys just chatting in the text, it's not the same thing, but at least if I have questions while I'm looking at your guys' builds, doing my critique thing, you guys can answer my questions about the build while I was watching live. But if you're watching later, just feel free to just send a message or talk it out in the Discord or whatever. So as an introduction for any of you guys who may be new to this video series, if you've not watched any of these streams in the past, I do these about once a month. This is a reward for my Patreon supporters. So if you guys would like to submit works for future critique videos, check out my Patreon page there. Very much appreciate the supports to all those guys who are members of that group. And we do also have a Discord as well too, which is exclusive for Patreon supporters as well too. So if you want to get in on that, very good group of guys in there, very helpful. A lot of good knowledge and experience in there as well too. So I think it's pretty cool. All right, let's get into it. Today we've got a lot of stuff to look at. So we'll have plenty to do here. Let me just get these open for us. I was just gathering everything, getting everything all organized for us here before we got started. So let me just address this. Hunter said, have you heard that Kirby Morrow passed away? He was the voice of Trollbarn from Gun Wing and also the voice of Miroku. And he also voiced Hotshot from Transformers the Car. I don't know. I'm not a big Transformers guy, and I also don't know who Miroku is. I'm guessing that's probably some famous anime character that I just don't know. Sorry. Not a laughing matter, though. Yes, I did hear that, of course. I didn't. I mean, if you would have told me the name, like, hey, Kirby Morrow died, I wouldn't have known who that was, admittedly. But I saw a bunch of people mentioning about that online, that he was the voice of, obviously, the American or English voice. I don't know if he's American or not, actually, to be honest. I would imagine so, but he was the voice of, yes, Troa in the English version of Gundam Wing. So yeah, man, that sucks. So obviously thoughts go out to his family and everyone, and obviously everyone in the anime fandom community, especially Gundam and other animes that he's in, whatever, are obviously going to be pretty sad as well too. So 2020, man, indeed. All right, so let's take a look here. Starting off with, this is from Brian, not Bro Builder Brian. There's a couple of Brians there, but this is from Brian Glenn. And let me just also, I need to pull up the email as well too, because all right, so this is an Origin Zaku 2. Let me fast forward through the work in progress videos, our work in progress photos, so you guys can see. There's what we're going to be looking at here. There's some work in progress photos as well too. We'll come back to those in a minute. But he said the inner frame was hand painted with gunmetal gray, whereas the manipulator's feet, as were the manipulator's feet and thruster bells. The main kit was done with 2 tones of metallic red, and orangish red is a combo of metallic red with a touch of gold, and the other body parts just metallic red. The Heat Hawk was purple, hit with a touch of gold as well too. So Brian, I'm not sure if Brian's in the chat yet or not, or if he's going to be, but I don't remember if Brian's using an airbrush or not. Because he was talking about the colors being mixed, that would make me think it's obviously airbrushing, not spray cans. But I don't remember offhand if he said that they were doing airbrushing or spray can painting. But as far as the inner frame goes, let's just go through these. So he said like these parts, this metallic gray, I guess, basically gunmetal kind of color was all hand painted. I mean, looks smooth enough there on the hands. And the nice thing about the frame is that if you end up having a little bit more texture kind of on the frame, I think it's a lot more believable than if you end up with a little bit of unwanted texture on the armor. Obviously, like from hand painting, is going to be a little bit more unsightly. But if you have it on the armor, it kind of just makes it, it kind of can be disguised a little bit as just sort of like a slightly rough, not super polished, just big heavy chunks of metal, have that kind of look to them. So doing that, like hand painting the inner frame, you can get away with it, I think, probably a lot easier if the hand painting is not like super smooth. So as for the colors, I do like that for the two tones of colors, what he did is he actually used the same base color, but then for like one tone, he just added a little bit to it. And I think he said what was a little bit orange added into it. So I think that's something that I've talked about in a past episode, where if you're going to be doing two tones of colors, one good way to make sure that your two tones will match pretty well, most of the time, is to just use the same color and just add something to the color, mix it for your secondary color. So I think that's a good way to go about doing it. It's a bit orange compared to how we typically see Char's Zaku. We don't usually see it that orange, but I mean, I think it looks, as far as the color goes, it looks fine. The two different colors. The stickers, it looks like you used probably the stickers that were included with the kit, which, if you guys watch any of my reviews, I don't really care for those stickers. And, I typically don't think that they look very good. You can make them look as good as you can, but especially like on curved surfaces and that, the stickers just, you're going to have a hard time making those look very good. But understandably, if you don't have much experience with water slides yet, or you just don't have the water slides, there are water slides for this particular kit, I believe. I know there's a bunch of Origin water slides. Luckily, Bandai actually does make those. But I don't know if they're exactly for this exact same layout, but I'm sure there's some Char's Zaku 2 water slides. The other thing is obviously the seam lines are not removed here on the forearm and the shoulders. So I know too, I will also say, I know Brian's just recently started painting as well too, so still very much a beginner. So these kind of things like not removing seam lines and stuff like that, I understand why, still learning, but something to tackle in the future. I would recommend, giving that a try on the next kit, especially for this particular kit. I have a video on my channel, at least, which is dedicated exactly to removing that seam line there on the arm. So Brian, if you haven't seen that video, I would recommend checking that out. If you just search, I don't know, Zaku release, HG Origin Zaku seam line removal tip, probably like that, it'll come up. There you go. So that I have a video for that, for the seam line removal on the arm. Mosquito, I'm gonna get it. Did I get it? I don't know. Anyway, and also the seam line on the shoulder. The shoulder is, I don't want to say it's a little bit trickier, because it's probably not. I don't remember offhand if I've done that yet, removed the seam line on a HG Origin Zaku shoulder yet, but I've done it on other HG Zakus, and it's relatively simple. Basically it's the same kind of modification that you have to do. You have to just turn the connection on the inside of there into just a C joint attachment to just clip it onto there. So yeah, I just need some glue, some sandpaper to wipe out those seam lines. The other thing too is I'm noticing between the two paint colors, I'm not sure if this was done intentionally or not, but you can see here, and this tends to happen. So you can see like where the seam line there on the arm, between those two pieces, the color tones don't match. And because he painted it in two-tone colors, I don't know if that was on purpose or not. Maybe he wanted those to be in separate colors. But you can see here on the shoulder as well too, where it doesn't look like it's on purpose, where these colors don't quite match up. And that's one thing that you have to be very conscious of. I don't know if I've really talked too much ever really about this, maybe in passing at times before, but when you're painting parts, And you have to keep in mind where two parts are going to meet. So you have to make sure that your paint coverage is really consistent, because if it's not consistent, like maybe you're painting the parts and like you're just painting and you think, okay, it's covered and it looks good. But if it's not like super opaque, if you're not laying like the exact same amount of paint on two different parts, and then when you go to put the parts together, you're going to have them meet and the colors don't quite exactly match. It's happened to me. It's happened to everyone, I'm sure. It just happens from time to time, and even still happens to me every so often. And so it just depends on the colors. Sometimes you can kind of get away with it if it's like white and like just very slightly off white or something, in an area where it's not very noticeable, like up in the thigh or something like that. And so it's like not as noticeable. It's typically where it tends to happen. It's typically where I see this happening more than anywhere else, I think, is usually on like leg parts, because it's where you usually have like a lot of parts that are coming together for like around the lower part of the leg, the two halves of the lower leg, and then you have the knee arm there. And once you put the knee armor on there, you realize the color tone's not quite the same as like the rest of the lower leg armor or something like that, or like the two halves of the thigh armor or something. So just got to make sure when you're doing your paint coverage. What I like to do when like I'm painting a kit and I'm thinking ahead of time, like I think that could happen, so I want to be extra careful about it, is what I'll do is I'll paint the first piece and then I'll keep that first piece right next to me, like on my thing of where I have all the sticks plugged in. I'll keep that first piece like right next to me on hand, so then as I'm going through painting the rest of the pieces, I have it. I can put it right next to the other piece to compare, to make sure. And then usually after I get like 5-6 pieces in, I have a good eye for what the coverage needs, like how many coats, how many times I have to go over the part, spraying it to know. And usually if it's just a good solid wet coat, usually what I'll do is spray over it once just to get like a good mist, like light coat over everything. And then I'll go over it again with a second coat. I mean, like not with any large amount of time in between, just right after. So go over the whole part just with a mist and then go around it again, like more slowly, getting like a good wet coat all around everything. That's usually good enough to get a solid coverage over everything. But just something to keep in mind and watch out for, so that you don't have this where the color tones don't match once you put the two pieces together. So I mean, and then we got just some panel lining on there as well too. So as for moving forward, where I would recommend some work, I mean, the paint coverage, I mean, I'm not sure, just because it's metallic and because of the lighting and the photo, it's a little bit hard to tell like what's going on here, where you have like this little bit of orange kind of, it looks like something's strange with the paint. I can't tell exactly what it is though, like the paint coverage. And it could be that this was, shoot, I don't know, actually, just thinking about it, because he said that it was mixed. And I wish Brian was here to answer this, but if it was airbrushed or Pentaline. But I can say if it was, sorry, not airbrush or Pentaline, airbrush or spray can. With spray can paint, it's easier for the paint to pool, and that looks like maybe that's what's happening here. That maybe you're having like right along the edge, the paint is looking like that because the paint's pooling on the surfaces and pulling away from the edge there. So it's leaving the edge of the part with a thinner, less amount of paint on there, basically, not really much of like the actual paint. What do I say? Not paint particles. What's that? Paint. What's the word? It's like, anyway, pigments. There you go. Thank you. Any of the pigments pulling away from the edge of there because of usually, I think it's just the shit. I can't. My terminology is just all lost tonight. Anyway, that's what happens when you're using spray cans. But so it's kind of hard to tell about the paint coverage. So I would maybe just work on that either way. And then the other thing is try out some seam line removal and using water slide decals instead of stickers. That will look a lot nicer as well too. So, but definitely making some good progress, Brian. So this one as well too, I would maybe recommend doing just a little bit of masking on that to paint, maybe so the blade is a different color from the handle or something like that. Just, I know the Zaku Heat Hawk is actually kind of all purple, isn't it? I think there's only the front edge of the blade is meant to be in a different color, but I mean, It looks a bit odd being solid purple with even the front blade as there as well too. So whether you're gonna hand paint that or mask that or mask it and hand paint it, just a little bit more color separation on that, I think would have looked nice, but definitely looking good. Like I said, for just recently started painting, just getting started, just kind of learning the ropes, you're making progress. All right, next, let's take a look here at David's. David, are you here? Shout out there in the chat if you're with us, David, but let me go ahead and pull up his email as well too, and let me pull up the photo for you guys so you can have a look at this while I'm reading the email. Here we are. Let me expand that out for us. Okay. So obviously it is an HG Gym Spartan kit. Why did saying that Spartan soundedly reminded me of Demolition Man? John Spartan, right? That's his name, right? John Spartan. David. Okay. David said, got a slightly customized gym striker. I added some pla to extend the thighs and waist. A couple of added wingtips on the chest, and the gun rack is added on too. Damn. All right, extended the thighs and the waist. Let's see here. So the thighs, yeah, I can see here where that panel line ends. I'm guessing that's the panel line that was probably on the original part, and this upper section here where the panel line disappears is maybe where he added the plot plate, it looks like. Possibly, I believe, and don't have this kit or have much knowledge of this kit on hand to know for sure, but I would imagine that panel line is probably part of the original kit, or he maybe added that. That's just where the seam line was between the two parts. Anyway, and to the waist, so I think maybe this here, you can see there's that kind of layer of like I don't know, looks like maybe 2 millimeters added there on the underside of the like torso section there. So maybe that's what he added there to also just make the upper body a little bit longer as well too. So so just some nice thinking on those modifications. I'll say first off on extending the proportions there. Definitely these older HGUC kits are a little bit short in the torso, so giving them a little bit longer stomach section there is usually a good way to make them look nicer. And of course extending the thighs as well too, giving them a little bit longer, a little bit more Katoki style thigh is always nice as well too. And let's see, a couple of added wing tips on the chest and gun rack added as well too. Where's the wing tips on the chest? Or am I not seeing that? See here? Okay. These little bits there on the top there, I guess he's talking about. I think here on the top of the cockpit hatch as well too, does it have those two little square nubs as well, or are those also just little bits of plot plate added on there? Also, I think maybe, and then here on the front of the forearms, I think those are maybe also just little bits of plot plate added around here and there. And the gun rack, he said, where's that? Here on the other side of the backpack. Is there a better photo of that? Here we are. So this little bit here to be able to add the what looks like a customized gun, but it looks like the machine gun of like the 8th MS team style machine gun of the ground Gundam, but looks like a kind of scope added there on the top of it or something. So basically just very simple, just little like a block plot plate, little attachment hook for that to be able to just strap onto the side of the backpack there basically. So nothing too complicated, but nothing wrong with a simple little modification to give your kit a little bit more unique look. Obviously different from the stock kit anyway, is what I mean. So let's go ahead and see here. Just kind of checking up in the chat here. So anyway, all right. So David, as first thing I'll say is I like the colors. Obviously gray with some orange highlights looks nice. The two grays don't really match as much as I would like, because this other one is very blue gray, and the main kind of gray is a really warm gray. So the color tones don't totally match. One good easy way to fix that is with a little bit of filtering. I think if you threw on like a little bit of just like a neutral, very light, like neutral gray filter over that, it would help to blend those two a little bit. It's not that noticeable, to be honest. It's only when you're like really looking at it up close. From a distance, that you can just see that nice two-tone gray, and it depends on the lighting as well too. Like obviously, in this warm lighting, it's maybe not quite as noticeable, but up close, it's noticeable. And I would have gone with maybe a little bit different color gray for the lighter gray. I would have gone maybe this bluish gray kind of one for the upper arms and the thighs there, with maybe a little bit lighter and a more neutral color. So kind of like maybe you don't have to go quite as light as off-white, but like almost that, I think would have looked maybe kind of cool. But still, like the concept of just a two-tone gray with the orange accents. And the placement of the orange accents is really nice as well too. It's not overdone. You just got a little bit here and there. And then for the feet, so I do like the color scheme, the layout of the color scheme. And then on the shield as well too is quite nice. This, bits of orange on there also. The couple of, you can see there's some hand painting of like this like silver around on here, and the hand painting doesn't look super crisp, like you can see like on the inside of here. And I'm not sure what you're using for hand painting, but like for painting in recessed areas like that, especially if you're using lacquer paints, and I think this is spray canned, I'm gonna guess. David could correct me if I'm wrong if he's watching. I don't think David's in the chat, unfortunately. But I believe this is spray can painted, not with airbrush. But if I'm wrong about that, either way, the point is that if it's base coated with lacquer and then you're painting the silver in with just some enamel or acrylic, even easy enough to just paint in that, and just like if you're painting in a recessed detail like that, just slop the paint in there, and if it gets around the edge, you can just clean it up very easily. So that's easy enough to do. And just like these little raised details. Now, I think that's not meant to actually be painted in silver. It's just meant to look dry brushed. So I think you did a little bit of dry brushing here, like on the weapon. You can see there's some dry brushing done in some silver. So it made it look like the suit is like pretty pristine, pretty new, but then the weapon is maybe one that's been in use in combat or something like that a little bit. So it's got a little bit of dry brushing on that. So I get the concept. The dry brushing looks a little bit kind of all over the place in terms of its placement, but it's kind of hard to tell because this photo's in the shadow. But for it to be kind of like all over the whole back end of this, but then it's like only on this part here. So it's a little bit hard to tell. But definitely I think it looks nice on the scope part here because there's just a little bit there on the edges. So that's what you want to go for ideally. Where towards the back end of the rifle there, you can see at the bottom where you can see more of like just basically the brush strokes of that. Just take it slow and make sure you're using even less paint on the brush. Like you want really like as little amount of paint on the brush as possible. It takes forever. And it does take more time, so you have to be patient. And that's the one thing why anytime I've done dry brushing, which has only been like a handful of times in my life, it's really hard for me to do because it takes so much patience. I'm just really impatient with it. I'll try to be like good at the start, and like the first couple pieces I'll do, and then I'll just like start to get impatient and start to go faster and mess up like that. And I'll just have to erase it and do it again. But that's the nice thing about painting with the lacquers at the start. Then you know whether you're doing your detail painting and weathering and all that with enamels or acrylics or whatever later on, it's very easy to just wipe it away if you mess up or something. So also just on the topic of detail painting, like here are these silver details down here above the or at the back of the knee. You can see where he stopped painting there. So just make sure you're getting all the way down into there. So just again, when you're looking at the kit up close, people can appreciate those details. Obviously from the far, you're not going to see that the silver didn't go quite all the way down into the knee, but you want to be able to look up very close as well too, and see that everything's all covered. So I'd recommend just a little bit work on detail painting and the dry brushing. The decals look fine. Not really seeing any silvering or anything with the decals, so the placement of those all looks good. The amount of decals is also pretty good as well too, pretty minimal. I like the use of the gray decals on the lighter gray color, but on the kind of medium gray color, which is like the main color of the mobile suit, the decals are not really very noticeable, and maybe that's, you know, can fly, dude. Fruit fly now. That gray on gray, it makes the decals a little bit hard to see, which is sometimes fine, but it depends on what you're going for. But and it depends. Like these ones are obviously easier to see. That one on the crotch there, that almost was black. It's much darker, but especially like on the lower legs, there was a few on there that looked pretty hard to see. If we go in here, like down there at the bottom of the leg. So I mean, I don't know. It's okay. It's it's maybe not as bad as I was thinking. They're dark enough. I think it's just maybe because of the lighting. But anyway, you just want to keep that in mind. I think gray on gray was a cool idea rather than white, because obviously you can see here on the backpack like white decals, and then on the gray as well too. White obviously is going to pop a lot more, and so it can be what you're going for stylistically, but just doing gray on gray is kind of cool as well too sometimes. Yes, but otherwise looks pretty cool. The modifications are interesting. I like those. Like I said, especially to the proportions, so that's cool. I would just recommend just keeping in mind about the color tones of your colors and the detail painting. Just trying to be a little bit more precise, and it's tricky. I know a lot of people when you're using a really tiny brush and on little bits like that, it just kind of takes practice and making mistakes, messing up. And if you mess up, just wipe it away and start over again. Yeah, I think definitely this would benefit from a little bit of just like a filter over it, just like some wash, because also just to fill in like some of the lines around these armor panels a little bit more as well too. And like I said, blending the two colors as well also. So a little bit of wash on this would look really cool, I think. All right, there is the Gym Spartan. It's a cool design. I wish we would get like a newer kit of that. I guess the HGC is probably not that bad. There you go. You can see it can look fine with some proper work done on it. So, all right, next, let's take a look at Evan's work. Evan submitted 2 different kits. Let me let's see. Pull up the first one here. And here it is, the HGUC Hazel. I want to make sure photos mixed up here. Open. All right, and here. What's that? I need to call pest control. No, dude, I don't know what it is. I mentioned this in the stream the other day. Like mosquito season, we thought was like long gone. I haven't seen any mosquitoes like in ages, like a month at least or so. I don't know. But then like just the past week or something, they keep getting like mosquitoes in here, and like nothing's open. I don't know where they're coming from. It's strange. It's getting colder, so I guess they're trying harder to make their way inside. And like I'm not like getting bit or anything. They're just like flying around, being annoying. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. But let's go ahead and take a look at Evan's Hazel here. So he says he's been working on it for a while. It's the first kit I've really taken anywhere beyond just snapping together and adding panel lines. So take that into consideration. The first time he's really done anything aside from just a little bit of panel lining on a snap together kit, he says. I really liked the design of the Hazel and wanted to take some extra time on it. For all the markings, I just used some generic caution marking water slides, as well as some SIMP Advanced Zeta water slides. Other things I did to enhance the kit were some detail painting all the yellow parts metallic gold, painting all the silver parts metallic silver, and red parts metallic red, and green parts to metallic green. Okay. Overall, I'm fairly satisfied. It's my first detail up. I think it went well. I had a couple of fumbles with the water slides in the beginning, getting better as I went along. Okay, so it's the first time really kind of taking some more time on a kit aside from just snapping a kit and some simple panel lining. So let's see here. There it is. Yeah. I think I missed it again somehow. Damn. All right. So I would assume you also did some top coating on this as well too, because it looks top coated. So we'll add that as well too. I think overall, the black panel lining is very harsh, and that just depends on the style. So most people, and myself included, would recommend not using black on white armor. I would recommend using gray on that. If you don't have any gray Panaline liquid, you can make some with just a gray enamel paint. So that's what I would recommend, because you get this really high contrast here you're seeing, and especially with the blue being very dark blue as well too. I think, let me go back to his email. He said he painted the blue, right? Let's see. And it didn't mention about that. Is the blue painted or not? Maybe not. It's just that dark blue, especially on the torso. But anyway, it doesn't have a lot of blue on there. It's mostly just the torso and like the feet. But with that being so dark and the rest of the kit being almost entirely white, except for all the little details and everything, the black makes it really high contrast. So that can be what you want to go for if you're going for a stylistic look for it. But in my personal opinion, I think it would look better in just gray. So that's what I would recommend in just for in the future. As far as the painted bits, I mean, the parts that are painted do look like, as far as I can tell, the paint coverage looks good. I'm not seeing anything where the painting looks, uneven or like that. You got a seam line here on the arm. I would recommend taking a stab at seam line removal as well too. I know this kit is an older HG and it's got a fair share of seam lines on it. I think like the thighs there as well, and the shoulders also has a seam line on the top of them as well too. Let's see if we can see in a photo. Maybe not that much, but yes, there's a seam line on the top of the shoulder, on the head as well too there. So this is a kit that does have a fair amount of seam lines on it, so you kind of got your work cut out for you as a beginner trying to tackle this kit. And but yeah, I guess that's we should also give him props for trying to tackle a kit like this for the first time doing that, because Hazel is a kit in general and just a design. It's not an easy one to take on, just because there's a lot of little details and everything. You got to paint like these vents in here, and you got all these just little vents are all different colors. The details, you got these little bits here, the rings. Circle little verniers there on the back skirt that are in different colors. So it's not, I wouldn't recommend this for like a beginner kit as like the first kit to take on if you wanted to try doing a little bit more work on kits. But so props on that. And yeah, like I said, the parts that are painted do look pretty nice. Yeah. And like you got the little red fingertips there as well, and also the decals look nice as well too. Fortunately, laying decals on top of white, it's very easy to do. But I mean, as far as I can tell, yeah, all the decals look good. It looks solid. Yeah, as far as anything else that I might recommend going forward, I mean, there's not too much I think I can really say much on this build. I think it's a good start. I mean, like in the future, I think I would just, like I said, just try painting more, because as far as I can tell from the email, said you didn't paint the entire thing white. And if you wanted it to be white and the plastic's white, I understand the maybe not feeling so inclined to actually paint that white. But you can do some interesting stuff painting white parts white by just like barely changing it to being like slightly off-white or slightly warmer white or a cooler white. You can adjust the color temperature a little bit, especially with the Hazel Gundam, especially like a lot of times in Advanced Zeta like illustrations. When you look at Advanced Zeta illustrations, you'll see there that the white is actually very purplish. So you could do that by adding just like a very tiny drop of purple. And white is very easy to tint with colors, especially purple. Purple is a very strong color. So you really, really only need a tiny bit. And that's, again, if you're going to be airbrushing, of course, putting like half a drop, a very tiny bit of purple into your like cup of white paint in your airbrush is all you need to get that little bit of purple tint to it. So while you may not think, oh, it's just white and I want armor to be white, so maybe not paint it, but try painting it and try, adjusting it just slightly. Or of course you could try pre-shading as well too. And just on that note, if you do try pre-shading under white, don't use black under white. Use just some other color, again, depending on what color, what kind of color tone you want your white to be necessarily. Just use like a neutral gray or something. Or if you want it to be like warmer, you could use a light brown or something like that as well too. So anyway, yeah, other than that, I would just recommend just like technical things like working on seam line removal, and just fully painting. But it seems like, the panel lining looks clean. I would recommend a different color for the panel lining, gray instead of black in this particular case on all the white parts. So keeping in mind the color of it, but the application of the panel lining looks fine. Decal work looks fine. So it's basically just the base painting that you need to get some experience with, and then seam line removal before that. But other than that, it looks pretty good. So I think, yeah, definitely another example of being off to a good start. So it's all about taking those steps. Every kit, you try something new, and it's just the easiest way to progress. Don't try doing everything necessarily on your very first kit. I mean, you could, if you're up for it, if you think you're up for it, go for it. But, otherwise just take it slow, work on one thing at a time on every new kit. He also submitted his, I'm going to assume is still a work in progress here before I read the email, on a HG Barzam. So let me just check the email on this one as well too. Evan said, I've been working on this Barzam for a bit. I've scratch built a little bit to modify the fin on the head unit. I've modified one of the beam saber held in the forearm to allow a beam to be held out of the forearm. My ultimate goal is something Advanced of Zeta, or Sentinel inspired. I'm really wanting to modify the arm to be built into a beam bazooka. Also, probably going to get the Mark II backpack put on it. That's about as far as I've gotten along in the planning. So, okay. So we can see here, he's made it so that he wanted the beam effect to be coming out of the forearm. I think that's cool. Looks good. It's a cool idea. And it seems like, seems logical, sensible with just that armor piece there on the arm. Come over here. Evaded me again. But with this panel there on the arm, it seems like that looks like that would be something that would be hiding a beam saber to be coming out of there as well too. As far as adding the this part here, kind of very Barzam, what's that? Barzam 2 or Advanced Barzam? What's the name of that one from the Advanced of Zeta Barzam from the reboot of Advanced Zeta reboot? So I think that's what the inspiration for this addition to the fin is on the head. It looks still a little bit rough, but it's kind of hard to tell with it just being a piece of plot play at this point. But in order to make it match, I would say not only just having your shape, all nice and solid, but having the front half also have some bit of panel lining going through it to match the back half as well too. How it has like those line details. So doing a little bit of just adding a line or two to the front as well too, just to make it look like the back is the stock half of the, it's like the back half is stock and the front part's added. Even once it's painted, it may look obviously added if the details don't match. So adding a little bit of panel lining on that, I think, will be nice to something simple. And this kit also does have, if I remember correctly, a couple of seam lines on it. So as we were just talking about with this previous build, I was recommending working on seam lines. So I think it's like here on the forearm, on the inside of that gray part, there's a seam line. And that may be about it. I know there was not a lot on this kit, but there's that one at least I know is there. So it's a good kit to practice a little bit of seam line removal there on that. As for the idea of building the arm into the beam bazooka, where it looks like the forearm is the beam bazooka, it's a cool idea. I always like that. I don't know if everyone else will agree. I think you gotta make sure that it's, take your time with it and build it up in a way that looks like it meshes well. If it's basically just like glued onto there and stuck on, it's gonna look like that. So the more time you take to make it look convincing, the more convincing it's gonna look. So use some other parts from other kits or something to make it look like some of the armor panels or something around on there to make it look more convincing. Don't just rely on using what you've got just between the bazooka and the parts with this kit, like having to cut and drill and glue, basically. Use some other parts to kind of also help blend it, help disguise it a little bit. Some other scrap bits or something if you have anything else lying around. But it is a cool idea. I do like the thought of that. And it'll look cool with the Gundam Mark II's backpack on there as well, too. Definitely the, what's it? Barzam Refine uses the Mark II's backpack. So, yeah, I think it's a cool idea. So I'll look forward to maybe some more work in progress on that, or maybe even seeing it done by the next episode. And we can take a look at that again more. But Evan, of course, in the meantime, just feel free to talk about that with us in the Discord, or just private message me about that if you want to talk more about ideas for that as well, too, of course. We can chat about that as well, too. All right. Let's see. Someone's saying this stream is bug abuse. Sorry. Yeah, man, they're bugging me. All right. Moving on. We've got Forged here with a couple of photos. Basically, let's see. Here we are. A couple of kits, basically one photo each. So we'll just take a look at these. Let me just refresh. He said on the email. So he said in his email, I don't do much proper paint work or anything. Closest I do are figure painting and detail painting for mecha stuff. It's definitely not the best. I'm just slowly trying to get better as I go. Okay, so let me show you guys what he sent along. So like I said, there's a couple of photos here, and they're all of different stuff. So he said basically what he's done so far is mostly just like little figure painting. So like maybe painting some of the details on this one, and this one are both minimum factory kits from Good Smile Company, Max Factory. So just did a little bit of detail painting on these, which, I mean, looks pretty good. I love these kits, as you guys know. So those are nice. And then pilot detail painting. So this is for, what kit would this be for? Just trying to see here. Help me out here, guys. This looks like maybe this, it looks so familiar, but I can't place it. Yeah. It also looks like a Zoids pilot figure. I think this is a PG, a Patlibar. GNX is saying Patlibar. Maybe that's what this is from. But it also looks like maybe this is from a PG, like the PG Mark II or something. You guys help me out? So they're saying Patlibar. It's not Evangelion. Ingram. Okay, maybe this is from like the Master Grade Ingram kit or something. I mean, obviously painting these small figures. Okay, yeah, you guys are saying Patlibar. Patlibar is the main character. Okay, so it's Patlibar. So this, I'm guessing this is the Master Grade Ingram, probably, kit, if I had to guess. As far as the detail painting these, I'm not sure the scale of this. I believe these are 1:100 scale, right? Yes. So pretty small, obviously. Pretty tricky. One thing I would recommend doing on this as well too is just with just a knife. If you have a ceramic blade, I know some people use ceramic blades for this, or you can just do it with a knife if you're careful with it, but just getting rid of the mold lines on there as well too. And this is a tiny little thing that's going to be built into the kit that, probably no one's ever really going to see. So it's only just up to you if it bothers you, if you want to take the time to do it. I would just remove the little mold lines on there as well too. If you're going to take the time to paint it, I would also just get rid of the little mold lines on there. And then I feel not really qualified to give too much advice as far as figure painting goes, because I'm certainly no expert on that. I have done it before to not great success as far as I'm concerned, but just throwing a little bit of wash on there too, I think, to just help bring out some of these details a little bit. Nothing too stark. Don't throw like some black panel liner all over this, but just something to bring out the details a little bit would be nice, I think, on that. So just give it like a good coat of gloss coat, and then just do some kind of, I don't know, it's like a light brown or something like that, wash around on some of these parts just to bring out the details and help separate between the colors as well too. So you get that nice kind of lining between there. On a small figure like this, I think would look cool. This one, he said he did as a joke because he didn't like the design of the Barbatos lupus, so he changed it up, I guess, with some customization, and it's certainly unique. I can understand not liking the proportions, the design of the Barbatos lupus. It's a very unique design, definitely. So, props for taking a stab at doing something completely different with it. I can't say I necessarily like it, but I can appreciate that you wanted to try to doing something with it, different with it. And he said it was for a joke, so I'm not gonna worry too much about hurting his feelings by saying that I don't really like it. But it's something that, I think if you actually did it in a serious way and like turning the kit into like a four-legged animal kind of thing. And I think I have seen that done before because of the whole Barbatos wolf name thing. People turning it into like an actual like four-legged animal sort of looking thing. I think I'm sure I've seen that done before. So I know it can be done in a cool way. But obviously it's going to take a lot more time and effort than just doing some simple modifications to get it looking like that, like this. But as far as as far as any recommendations or anything like that, or like advice for going forward, forged, I'm not sure, because I'm not sure exactly what you want to do in the future. If you're wanting to get more into painting, then obviously, I would recommend just checking out a bunch of tutorials and things. I would recommend just going for an airbrush. If you're kind of on the fence about whether you want to go the route of airbrush or maybe try just spray painting a couple of kits first with some spray cans, I would recommend just taking the plunge, just going for an airbrush straight away. Later, if you start off spray can painting, it does kind of help. And that's how I started. It does help you to just like get a feel for painting in general, I guess. But at least for me and for pretty much everyone else that I've ever talked to about this, once later you make the transition from spray cans to airbrushing, you're going to be regretting, like, why did I even bother with spray canning for as long as I did? Whether it was 1 kit or 10 kits or 20 kits, whatever, you're going to think like, man, I should have just been airbrushing the whole time. This is so much better. So it's not to say that you can't get good results with spray canning. I think you can get perfectly fine results with spray can painting. It's not a bad way to paint. It's just that I think you'll have a much more favorable results, and you'll be much more comfortable. Once you've got some practice under your belt, be much more comfortable and have a lot more options available to you in terms of colors and everything like that, obviously, with airbrushing. So I would say give that a try. As far as like any technical things, seam line removal and stuff like that too, I would say obviously you're aware of that stuff. So I'm not sure where you're wanting to go in your road to improving your skills, but I'm sure you know the way. So I'm just looking forward to seeing more progress as you're making your way through, future kits as well too. So we'll see. And of course, obviously, if you have any questions about anything, you'll hit us up there in the Discord. All right, next we've got Greg's goof here. So let me pull this up for you guys and share that screen. Here we are. So this is the Master Grade Goof 2.0, if you couldn't tell. And let me pull up his email here. Greg. Here we are. He said he removed the original power cables and went for wires covered with springs and painted them just gloss black. So you can see here, yeah. And you can see maybe even better one of these. Basically just the hoses running from the backpack around to the front. I just swapped those out. Oh, and then on the head as well too. So used a wire. I mean, if you guys saw my last work in progress video on the bond dock, it's exactly what I did on the HD bond dock as well too. Just use a wire to hold, make sure to hold the spring in place for how you want it to go, and then just spring over the top of that. So we'll come back to that. What else? He said the light blue is a special mix, DL 2.0 water slides. So they are 2.0 water slides, are water slides meant for this particular kit, I guess is what it means. Just from DL, not Bandai ones or anything. And also added the Zaku Heat Hawk because I felt like it needed something special. Okay. So he said the light blue is a custom mix. I do like the look of the light blue. It does look quite nice. And I like the changes to the color scheme, just not being original Goof color schemes. Original Goof's color scheme. S in the wrong place there. And let's see. Just in the chat, Greg is also not here. That's on the chat. I think we're batting a big 0 so far as people being in the chat whilst talking about their kits, unfortunately. Damn. That's why I was doing this on a Saturday, because I was hoping that some more of them would be able to join, with it being Saturday morning there in the US. I think most of these guys are in the US, but it's still kind of early, I understand. So I don't know. Just because it's Saturday doesn't mean that people don't have to work or whatever. So it's okay. They can watch the playback later if they're unable to watch live. So he added the Zaku Heat Hawk. Oh yeah, on the side of there. So that's a cool thought to do that, I think. Giving it some sort of extra custom weapon as well too. So it's backwards, isn't it? Usually the Heat Hawk is going the other way with the handle pointing up. It always looks kind of weird. I always think that the Heat Hawk looks strange attached onto the side skirt, because always the handle is like poking up, and it's like a big boner, but like off the side of his waist, sticking up. So it always look kind of weird to me. But placing that Heat Hawk to be plugged onto the back skirt would look pretty cool onto there. You can see it looks like one of the springs, the wires coming out of the backpack over here on this side, popped out of there. So maybe a little bit of drop of super glue in there to make sure that stays in place. The decals, like I said, he was using like the official, unofficial decals for this, as in they're not officially from Bandai, but they are a decal set meant for this kit, as far as I could tell based on what he said in the email. It looks like, for the most part, everything with the decals is fine, but it does look like this one in the backpack is maybe a little bit of silvering on that. It can just be just the lighting, but a little bit of silvering, so maybe a little bit fix that silvering if that's what that is, or maybe another coat of top coat or something on this, so that you're not having those decals catching the light differently like that, so they're not sticking out so much. It just depends on the lighting, of course. But yeah, I do like that color of blue, and I like that he changed the colors from the original design. The looks like 2 colors together, super dark blue and then like this kind of medium dark blue there. I don't really like the hoses being in a gloss black, just because they look so glossy compared to the rest of the kit, and just being straight black. I think to do those in like a dark navy, basically even like the same color that you have for the skirts, I think would have looked nice. Just because they do look like very contrasty to the rest of the kit, where it's all just this kind of it's not super matte finish. It's a little bit like semi-gloss or kind of satin or something, it looks like, because you are seeing some reflections on there. But it's certainly not glossy. But then you have the hoses being a very high gloss and straight up black. Anytime you're using like black on a kit, you got to be very careful about it, because black is usually almost always too black. It's too dark. So you have to, make sure you're using it when you really, really want super black. But if you just want something to just look black, then usually you can achieve that better by actually not using black, but using either like a dark navy or just like a really dark gray. So a lot of times on my kits, anytime I want something to look black, I usually either use like midnight blue, I think is one, or I think actually like just Mr. Color navy blue, as far as I can remember. I think I had somewhere around here. Yeah, navy blue is also super dark. And then German gray is a very dark gray that does the job of looking like pretty black. So it's obviously not going to be super dark, but yeah, again, just, depending on how dark you want it, you could make it, even if you're using like something like German gray, which is pretty dark, and you want it to be a little bit darker, you can add some black to it to make it darker. But yeah, typically I would advise against using straight black unless you're very certain that that's what you want, like a really super dark, really black. And it looks very stylized. That's the thing. It doesn't look realistic. Usually anytime you're using straight black, it will immediately make whatever your mobile suit look just not very realistic. Is all. The other thing that you could do if you are using straight black is that you could then throw a filter over it, and then that would lighten it a little bit. But in this particular case, I don't think that doing a filter over this kit is probably not what he's going to want to do with that, I would say. So it seems like that you could probably remove those pretty easily. So if you want, I would maybe recommend spraying over those again with a little bit lighter color, and then not making them glossy. But again, it just depends on you. If you're happy with that, then stick with it. But that's just what I would do for those hose bits. Otherwise, a little bit more panel lining. I see there's just some places where, as far as I can tell, you didn't hit with some panel lining. The little detail there on the front of the arm, the little details there on the front of the thighs. As far as I can tell, there's nothing in there for panel line wash. I think that's just shadows we're seeing in there. So just filling in those little bits with some something to panel line those little details on there. You can see, let's see, a little bit of some visible nub marks in some areas. I think here on the front of the thumb, you can see those on the thumbs. And I was thinking in the back, I saw something somewhere as well too earlier. It looks like down here on the lower leg, you can see a little bit of nub mark there on the lower leg as well too. So just making sure you got all those nub marks, everything sanded away just before you get to the painting. Or, if you just missed it, whatever, you were trying to get all the nub marks really sanded really well, and you just missed a couple here and there. That's what the priming stage is for. So once you get your primer on there, you should be able to see everything pretty clearly. And if there's something that needs a little bit more sanding, just sand it again and prime it again. It's much better than just leaving it there. So just make sure you're checking, making sure all the nub marks are nice and completely sanded down and all that. Like this decal up on the shoulders were too. Obviously, anything like wrapped around a curved surface, and this is not only a curved surface, but it's also at an angle as well too. It's diminishing in size. You're gonna need a lot of decal, not decal thinner. What's that? Mark softer to soften that decal to get it, fit to this form here, so you can see the edge of that decal a little bit. So you need a little bit more mark softer there on that decal, just to get it wrapped around good and tight on there, so you're not seeing the edge of that up on the horn on the shoulder. But I think, that's really kind of about it. Also, just one last thing, I would just recommend working a little bit on the posing of it, the stance. Let's see if there's loads of guides for this online. Let me see here. Let me see if I can just pull something up here. Posing guide. Here you go. This is what I want. Let me pull up a different window. Here. There you go. This. So obviously his goof is not posed like this, but you can see here, you want to make sure the legs are out, sort of like an A, but how extreme you want to go with it is up to you. You can give, the wider you go, the more extreme it's going to look, and then it gets to be looking like very stylized. But you want them to be like a capital A there, essentially. You also want to make sure that the knees are not pointed straight ahead, but slightly turned out a little bit. So that is also, otherwise, with the legs straight, then at an angle like that, it's also going to look weird, and then your feet are straight on. So you can see here on the bottom, the feet are slightly pointed out a little bit because the legs are slightly turned out. The arms, it kind of depends, but you want to basically have the upper arm should be the bicep part should be pointing a little bit back, actually, and then the forearm should be either like straight down or slightly forward to get the kind of the proper arm placement there. And then for like the main hips in the body section, you want the front, ideally, and not all kits can do this, so it depends on the articulation you're working with the kit, but you want the hip section to be like pointed forward a little bit, like it's thrusting, but then extend out the back, so it's almost sort of like leaning forward. But because the hip section is forward, is actually the torso will appear to be straight, but it's actually bent forward, if that makes sense. So anyway, there's a lot of just these little adjustments that you make to the posing. Let me pull this up again here, just to get that better like power stance there with the pose. So yes, make the legs a little bit wider, and it looks like they are kind of already angled out a little bit, but you could do a little bit more if you wanted. Knees should be straight. If you're going for just a like standing power pose, obviously if you're going for like an action pose or something, it's going to be different, but if we're just talking for a standing pose, the knees should be straight, locked, make sure those are pushed back all the way, and the hip section is to the front. The abs are crunched a little bit forward in as well too, especially for the goof and like zakus and things like that, where you have that mono eye. You want to make sure the head is a little bit down, so you're getting that kind of very tough looking eye level there with that. And the arms as well too, they are kind of bent in the right way at the elbows, but you want to just turn them in just a little bit, if that makes sense. Right now they're kind of like this, but you want to just turn them in a little bit like that, maybe, if that makes sense. I don't, you can play with that, but see what's looking good. They're a little bit just kind of straight at the moment, so rotating them a little bit I think would be good. So just some minor adjustments to the pose would be the last thing I would recommend for that. Hey Adam, I just saw your message, Adam, so I saw you there, and then I see you're here as well too. So hey, how's it going? Just taking a look at some works here from the Patreon supporters. So I'll check your message here in a bit once we're done with this. But we got a few more to look at here, 3 more. James is up next. So let me pull up James's. Where are we? Here we go. All right. Get these open. So he's got a Iron Blooded Orphans custom build here. All right. So he's basically got, well, I'll refer to his email, but basically trying to make an Iron Blood Orphans kit look something similar to like the Unicorn Phoenix, essentially. So let's take a look at the email here. The base kit is the Barbatos 6th form. Okay. Option parts are the Barbatos Lupus. The shoulders are from the Barbatos Lupus, the backpack from the Gushin Rebake, thrusters from the IBO option set 2. Yes, these ones here, those ones there. The ones that go like on like the Grazes kind of back skirt kind of thing. Man Rody machine gun and the joint parts of the No Name rifle. Okay. Scratch built, and he said he also scratch built new horns to replace them on the Barbatos. So yeah, obviously you can see here the V-fin is scratch built there. It was just some plot plate, it looks like. And let's see, I have also added plot plate to the chest in an attempt to make it look more boxy. Yes, the unicorn design obviously is a very angular, very boxy design. So if you're wanting to make this look anything more like a unicorn, you got to kind of start getting some angles in there where you can, so you can see what he's done with the chest there, adding some bits of plot plate just to make it look a little bit more blocky there with that section on the front. And then his work in progress plans, so he's not quite done with it. He says, work in progress, work on the thrusters and the joint, the sub arms to feel more solid. I think he's talking about the arms here for the back. Yeah, because they're just basically a handful of those like connection pieces all stuck together, and so yeah, it's not going to be very solid, and it's not going to really look the best either. So there's different options that you can use definitely to give you some better kind of mechanical arms to hold on to those bits there at the back. So we'll come back to that, and probably strip the paint and repaint with a similar color scheme. Okay, notes: if it isn't obvious, this design is the idea for this is kind of Phoenix. So the important design choices would be color scheme. Okay, yeah, I got it. Yes. So, and he said, P.S. Sorry for my photography and posing skills. Okay, well, yeah. First advice would be to not use the flash ever when taking pictures of your Gunpla. So, I mean, obviously, if your room is kind of dark, you know, best, and if you don't have good lighting in your room or anywhere inside your house, my best advice regarding photography for you guys would just be to go outside. You know, when you've got a good sunny day, or actually better than that, if you got a good overcast day, slightly cloudy is actually the best, because then your light's a little bit diffused sunlight anyway. So it's going to be the best condition. So go outside if you want to do proper better photography if you don't have anything good set up inside. And then posing, I mean, the posing's not too bad. For like this, I mean, just, I know it's still a work in progress, so it's not like this he's going for like his final pose with this, but just on the topic of this particular pose, like for example, you can see here, like this back arm there, the elbow is kind of in, or it's either like straight or the elbow is kind of in towards the body and like kind of out. So you want it to be the opposite way around. You want the elbow to be kind of pointed out a little bit, away from the body a little bit. And also the arm that's holding the gun is also the arm is too in towards the body. You want to make sure that's out a little ways a little bit. And also I would bring the gun back as far as possible so that like it actually looks like the butt of the gun is up against the bicep there, or even inside there. So you're just going to need to make some space for that between the torso and the bicep there. As far as the colors, the gold, I mean, he said he's going to strip and repaint it, which I think is a good idea, because I would recommend doing some more work on this. So I think do some more work and then repaint it. But as far as just the color of the gold in general, I think the color does look pretty good. It looks like the color of the Phoenix Gundam, basically. Gold is not as simple as just being gold. There's a very vast variety of color tones and like I don't know, just like finish for your gold. I'm this one as well too. I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess this is also spray can painted. Now, let's see. But yeah, the thickness of the paint does look like this was spray can. It kind of has that look is like what you would normally get from spray can painting, that the paint looks a bit thick on there. So again, I would recommend getting an airbrushing if you can, or if that's a future goal for you. I think that's good. The dark blue looks nice as well too. I like that color of dark blue. The light blue is, it doesn't, I mean, I get that it's supposed to look like the Phoenix just because of the whole thing, but that particular light blue doesn't necessarily make me think of the Phoenix Gundam. So I would recommend painting the psycho frame color for like Unicorn or the Banshee of the Phoenix. Painting that color is hard to recommend what way to go with that, because there's so many different ways that you could go about painting the psycho frame depending on how exactly you want it to look. But based on what you're working with here and kind of what you're going for, I would maybe recommend trying to get your hands on some kind of metallic blue. I want to say something that's not quite so light. It's a very light blue for that, and it could just be the photography as well too. Yeah, it's like the flash that's maybe looking brighter than it is, but it's far as I can tell, it looks very bright blue. Not bright, light blue, like a sky blue kind of color. And again, that's just subjective though. If that's the color that you're happy with it for your custom, then go with that. As for what I would recommend working on the kit is, I think that you're right. If you wanted to make it look more like a unicorn, you're right to make it look a little bit more blocky. But I think you're gonna have to do a little bit more than adding some just like pieces of plot plate on there, because you've got this part of the chest where it's like coming down at an angle, and you got this V angle, and then it just suddenly turns into like this square. You're gonna have to do some putty work. I would think would probably look a lot better. Fill in that with putty so that this whole bit looks like all one big square piece. So you don't have where it just looks like two separate pieces just like slapped together like that. And also for the V fin as well too. It depends. I think, again, it depends on what you want to do with that. One thing that you could do is adding some putty in there between the centerpiece and like the fins to make that look like the centerpiece and the fins are all one piece. Or if you want to keep that looking like separate pieces, I don't know. There's a lot of ways that you could take that. What I maybe would have done, I'm trying to picture exactly what the Phoenix's V-fin looks like, but I would maybe try to cut it out of one piece of plot plate rather than having like three pieces cut out and then stacked on top of each other like that. But just one piece, like cut out your shape that's in like your kind of Phoenix kind of V-fin shape design. Maybe it look better, possibly, but again, depending on what you want. Basically, what it looks like now is that these pieces are cut just very simply. So again, it goes back to I was just saying this on which one of the previous kits was I talking about this? Anyway, the more simple you keep the modifications, the more it's going to very apparently look simple in the modifications. So the more time you take with it, the more kind of detailed you are doing your custom work. Obviously, the better it's going to look. So, take your time and do it, however you want it to look. But just make sure that you're, doing your best to make it look its best, and then it will look its best. Also, seam line here on the front of the arm, I'd recommend getting rid of that as well too. So again, once you've got the paint stripped and you're doing some more work on it before you repaint it again, it's one thing I would recommend doing is just getting rid of that seam line there on the front of the arm. I think that's really kind of the only seam line that this kit has, basically. So you're pretty good on that. Also, you can see the nub mark on this frame part there as well too. So some people will do that, be pretty good with their nub removal on the armor pieces, and then just kind of not care quite so much about the inner frame, because usually a lot of the inner frame is going to be hidden. But just make sure, especially if it's an IBO design, a lot of the inner frame is not hidden. So just make sure you're giving equal love and attention to your nub marks, even on the inner frame, even on parts that don't show, because even if it's like inner frame parts that you're certain are not going to show, like inside the thigh or something like that are never going to show because they'll be completely hidden. But everything needs to still fit properly as well too. So sometimes if you have like little nub, even if it's little bits like that, it'll interfere with parts fitting properly. So even on the frame, even on places where the nub mark is never going to show, make sure that you're taking care of that still good and well, because it could matter. It might matter. And even if it doesn't matter, still just do it properly anyway. Right. So yeah, just make sure you got all those nubs taken care of on the inner frame as well too. Again, that's something that you can work on between stripping the kit and repainting it. So you got time to do that. And that's the other thing too, is just speaking of having time to do that, just don't be in a rush about it too. Just take your time. I think it's a cool idea, taking an Iron Blood Orphans Barbatos Gundam and trying to make it be a little bit more inspired by a different design like the Phoenix in this case, and trying to basically do like not necessarily a kit bash between those two kits, but a kit bash of the design of those two kits. And so I think it's a cool idea, and there's definitely a lot of area where you can kind of work on that a little bit more. And just the basic things like the seam line removal, nub removal, things like that on this. It looks like that on the gun as well too, as far as I can tell. There's probably a seam line on the top of there also. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see it there on the front of the gun as well too. So just working on those basic things as well too. A lot of people can end up getting, very excited and want to do custom work like this, and that's good. You should, it's good to be motivated and excited and having these ideas, and then not only just having the idea, but then taking the initiative to actually try to make your idea a reality. That's good, but you do also need, to make sure that you're developing your technical skills as well too, so that once you're in the process of making your vision into a reality, that it's actually going to come out looking its best as well too, because that's what I mean. It's got to be something that you're happy with either way. So, and yeah, as far as the mechanical arms for holding the backpacks on there, I would try to recommend something, but I don't know, nothing's like coming to mind necessarily at the moment, because there's a lot of different things that you could do for that. I would also maybe recommend checking out some different Kotobukiya option parts as well too. There's some different Kotobukiya option parts for just like connection pieces and stuff like that. You might find something among some different Kotobukiya sets, option weapon sets and things like that, that have parts that would be good for just a connection piece to the back parts there like that for that. So just look around, some different things for ideas for better connections for those on the back part. So there you go. Yes. Just let me check out the chat here. In your Patreon page, what it mean all Discord benefit if I become your Patreon supporter? It's for $5 and up a month is getting access to the Discord. So the details should be there on the Patreon site. All right. Oops. Did like just the screen just went black for like a minute while I was gone. Sorry. I went to the wrong thing there. Sorry about that, guys. It's kind of weird how like I can leave the stream and the stream's still going. Okay, weird. Anyway, so sorry about that. Pushed the wrong thing. Anyway, John. Where's your email? John, here it is. All right. So he submitted a couple of things. So we'll take a look at a couple of kits here from John. And then after John, we've got Jonathan to wrap up our entries for today. So this is a customized RX-78-2. Here we go. Yeah, my face is lagging. I noticed that. It should be fine now, right? Or no, it's still kind of weird, isn't it? Don't really know what that's about. I don't really know what I can really do much about that. So I've got a weird laggy face. All right. So the first thing we'll take a look at here from John is his RX-78-2 customized here. Let's check the email. What did he say about this? So it's the HGUC RX-78-2 custom. It's his 7th Gunpla build and 4th painted kit. So he used airbrush with Mr. Color paints, and he listed the specific paint colors. I won't read those out for you guys. It's okay. Mixed a few of those to get the colors I wanted. So the colors are basically kind of custom mixed as well too. And he used Delphi decals for the Origin RX-72 Origin Gundam. Seam line removal on the head and legs, messed up on the head and got glue into the right head vent. I'm not sure. Well, it's not very noticeable as far as I can tell. Maybe like a little bit right there, I guess. And he says his first it's his first time scribing and using plot plate. Custom scribing on the arms, chest, waist, and legs, and use plot plate on the arms, waist, and legs. Okay. So he's got a little bit of experience, a couple of kits experience painting, and it seems like he's got everything down as far as like using the proper good paints and decals, and he did the seam line removal, which is good in the places where this kit needed it. Now this is the Revive kit that he's working on, I think, right? Is that, or do you say a different one? It's HGUC ARC782. So I'm guessing it's the Revive kit. It looks like the Revive kit as far as I can tell, right? And first time doing plot plating and panel lining on the kit. So just looking through these work in progress photos here, so you can see like the difference just with like the adding the bits of plot plate there on the front ankle armor there as well. Let's see. So it's got those, and just like looking at this as it is here and now, I'm a little bit worried about the look of the plot plate added there on the front skirts, but then when I see it on the finished kit, I think it looks better. Once you get the whole thing painted in yellow, I think it's just because you can see the white just set on top of the yellow there. It looks a bit odd, but then when you see it, once the kit is actually painted, it looks fine. They also, in this picture, you can tell the size is not the same. This one's definitely larger, but I'm not sure if that's like showing that he laid these on there first and then kind of like cut them down to size. It looks like maybe like the one on the on our right, on the Gundam's left front side skirt, that one's a little bit more cut down, and because here on the finished kit they look the same size as far as I can tell. So anyway, I was a bit worried seeing it as a work in progress, but seeing it on the finished kit, it looks fine. Let's see. As far as the rest of the little bits of plot plate added, in general, the bits of plot plate added are very thick, kind of thicker than what's usually used for adding this type of detail, like the little raised detail bits like that. Usually, I wouldn't recommend using something quite so thick. Again, unless you're going for it to look stylized, like it looks like very large raised details like that. It's not usually done like that, but if that's what you want, that's what you're going for, then I can understand. But yeah, usually I think that looks like, just offhand, I would guess that's probably 1 millimeter thick plot plate on a 1/44 scale kits. You may think, oh, just 1 millimeter thick, but 1 millimeter can be pretty thick. It may even be 1.5 millimeter because it looks pretty thick on there. So even like the ends are kind of like sanded down, so you're not seeing like any sharp edges of that, like on the top and bottom. It's not squared off. You know what I mean? I think the whole thing could have just been sanded down to just be not sticking out so much. You know what I mean? They just look a little bit thick, I think, in my opinion. As far as the scribing looks pretty good. I'm not seeing really anything where the scribing went off, and as far as just like the where the placement of the scribing, let's see, where's another photo where we can see some more of that. The placement of the scribing and just like the angles, everything, the design of the scribing, I think looks pretty good. So maybe, for as far as going ahead, the scribing, I think you're off to a very good start with that. So I think you'll probably be fine with that moving forward. As far as the plot plating, I would recommend using a thinner plot plate, if at least for 1/44 scale, even 1/100 scale, for adding details like that, as I imagine probably what you're going for with the decals, as far as I can tell. Probably thinner plot plate would be better. As far as the painting looks very smooth. He did it with airbrush, so it looks pretty good. You can see like around where those bits of plot plate are added, it looks a little bit rough, probably just from the glue or something around those. So with the airbrush, the layer of paint from the airbrush is very thin. So, and especially without any weathering, you're gonna see anything like that. So that's why I guess people really praise like the sharp details and things on clean finish kits, like without any weathering, something like this, is because if there's anything like that where there's where you've got glue or something's like over sanded or something like that, or you can see like here on the top of the bazooka, and I don't remember necessarily if this was a seam line or a mold line, but anyway, where there was a line on the top of the bazooka, you can see right there where there's that raised detail. There's a little bit of that line you can still see right there. You guys seeing that? You can see what I'm talking about. That tiny little bit, it's gonna be visible. Oh, and you can see what he was talking about with the glue getting into the vents on the side of the head. Yeah, that's unfortunate. It can happen though. It'd be hard to get that out of there. But anyway, so yeah, if you're going for a clean finish like that and doing customization or even just like mold line removal or seam line removal, and you're going for a clean finish, you've got to be really on top of that to make sure you're getting all those really tiny little details, because you will be able to see that. There's no hiding anything with the clean finish build, basically, unless it's like hidden underneath something, underneath a part, or like on the back side of a part, and you're just not taking any pictures of the back side of it or something like that. But as far as the colors and the color placement, I like it. It's good. Basically, what is the color scheme? It's not like any kind of actual color scheme, because it's pretty unusual for the torso to be like the main color. It has all the shoulder, arms, and legs, the waist, arm, and everything as well too. Because like most different versions of the ARC-782, always the torso part here, which is blue on the original kit, would be like, like a different color. But it's kind of interesting seeing it as the same color as the main color for the arms and legs as well too. And the big yellow piece for the shield looks very cool, and the colors are nice. The bright blue looks nice as well too, and the yellow. So the color placement is really good. It's nice. You don't have too much of those color bits. It's still mostly this kind of very light gray color, which looks pretty nice. And going back to before, who was that? I think it was David's Gym Spartan we were looking at before, that had the two grays, and I was recommending using a different color or two grays that worked better together. Here's an example where you can see at least the grays are pretty neutral, it looks like, in their color tone, and maybe the ones like a little bit warmer, but they go together pretty well as far as the color tones for the two different color grays match pretty well. Someone was asking, I saw someone mention in the chat, asking if he extended the legs, and I was wondering that as well too. He didn't mention in the email about extending the legs, I don't think, unless I kind of skimmed past that. But you can see in this photo that this leg looks like it's like maybe not totally all the way plugged in. So maybe just kind of instead of actually making any like physical modifications to the leg or something like that, maybe just made it so that it doesn't plug in all the way. It leaves that little gap there. But if you're not able to see that from most angles, then why not? But you can definitely kind of see it down there. So I'm not sure. Yeah, you can see that gap. So I don't know if it's just like accidentally not plugged in all the way, or if he did something in order to make the legs longer by creating a little bit of a gap there. But adding a layer of plot plate onto the bottom of the hip joint there would have been an easy way to just fill that gap, I want to say. But yeah, cool custom color scheme. And for, what do you say, he's painted 4 kits so far. No, it's the you guys are asking which kit it is. It's the Revive kit, HGC Revive, right? I'm pretty sure. I mean, have I been wrong the entire time? No, I'm pretty certain it's the Revive kit. So yeah, I think the panel lining is going well. The detail with the plot plate just needs some practice to just kind of get the hang of the size and the placement of that. I would recommend using a thinner size, but colors and everything, the painting looks nice. It looks good. The decals look good. I'm not really noticing anything in the way of any silvering or anything with the decals, so they all look pretty well applied. That's still, I want to check the inner elbows because you can see very clearly in this picture, you can see on those pieces on the inside of the elbow joint, that mold line in the middle. You're going to want to also sand that to get rid of that as well too. And you can see it in this photo there also, but and this is obviously a work in progress photo. I'm not sure exactly how far along in the work in progress this is, though. It seems like it's fully painted here as far as I can tell. Maybe this is just before panel lining and decals and all that. So in the like full finished photos here, I would imagine it's that mold line, yeah, it looks like it's still there on the elbow joint. So just another one I would recommend is sanding away that mold line. And his other build here is a Shinanju, mechanical clear Shinanju. So let's go back to his email. He said he airbrushed with Alclad paints for the frame, obviously not the armor. I'm still considering putting on decals, though I attempted and it ripped two already. So now I'm not sure if I should do them or just leave the raised details alone. Okay. So I tried to look for replacement decals. Okay. Also considering creating a custom stand for it, but I don't have any experience. Okay. Yes. And he also asked for some pointers regarding photography and posing. So I already talked a little bit about photography, just a good way for getting better photographs, better lighting is just taking outside. As far as posing goes, and he said that he gets frustrated at times when he poses the kit and the paint keeps chipping. Yes, posing painted kits, not really recommended. You can do it, but yeah, it's very easy to chip the paint now. If you're taking all the proper steps and using strong paints, you know, some people will tell you that you should be able to pose it without chipping anything. But yeah, I mean, I would recommend just not planning on doing much posing. Once the kit is painted, you know, I would plan on just having it set in one pose and not messing with it. Just don't take that risk, you know, unless you're comfortable with it. But yes, paint chipping is certainly a thing that is going to happen. It's definitely more likely to happen if you're going to be moving the kit around. So as far as just the posing, I mean, standing posing, we also talked about this a little bit earlier as well too. So there's lots of reference kind of guides you can check online that will tell you like exactly, you know, which parts to move where, but you can kind of just eyeball it. I mean, I think as far as I would say, but as far as putting the decals on this, that's a tough call. Yeah, putting decals on top of clear armor, it's always you don't know really how it's gonna look, if it's gonna look right. So I guess kind of the best way to go would be to just maybe try a couple. And yeah, he said he tried a couple, but I think he was talking about the decals for the lining parts, the gold lining decals that go around on like the gold lining. Yeah, because you can't necessarily do a reverse wash on clear armor, so you're kind of stuck to maybe just having to use the decals or trying to do that by hand, which kind of sucks. But that's obviously another option that you could attempt doing it by hand. I would recommend, you know, he said he already damaged a couple of them or ruined a couple of the decals already. So if you can get some replacements, and I'm sure you can get decals, some just other third-party decals for Master Grade Shinanju out there pretty easily, probably loads of them. So getting some new ones shouldn't be too much of an issue. And I think it would look cool with the gold lining there for all the sleeves markings and everything. Getting some gold decals for that, I think would look pretty cool. So yeah, as far as the other markings, like the regular caution markings, things like that, I don't know, because with the clear armor, you're already seeing like all that detail on the inside, all showing on the outside, and then adding more armor detail on the outside as well too, by way of decals. I think it's just gonna maybe too messy visually. It's already kind of, there's a lot going on there. It's kind of hard to see with all this detail there all showing through. So it would, I think, get so messy by putting all the decals on there as well too. So maybe be strategic with it, maybe just a couple of the bigger ones And that's kind of it. Maybe you don't mess around with some of the smaller ones, but let's just go through some of these other photos here. So you can see some of the painting on the inner frame, which does look pretty nice. These clear parts, and he didn't mention in the email what he did about the clear parts, I don't think, right? Black gloss. No, he didn't mention, but I'm guessing he did mention on his RX-782 build that he did use Future, as in like a pledge Future, for a just like protective layer gloss top coat. So I'm guessing that these are either sprayed or dipped in pledge Future as well too, because that's, I know, something that is pretty commonly done for clear parts to make them look super glassy clear like that. So I'm guessing you can see like this one is probably the little bit more kind of foggy one is probably just how the plastic came originally, and then dipped or sprayed, it looks like probably dipped in some pledge there will make it all super nice and glassy like that. So yeah, he didn't mention that in the email, but that's what I would assume is going on with that. Yeah, the inner frame does look very cool. The multiple different tones of metallic used for that is pretty cool. A little bit of purple there on the back. I like that. And painting that metallic blue on the inside of the thruster bells there as well. Yeah, there you go. And these mechanical clear kits are just really cool. I like them. And then the gunmetal color there for the rifle as well too. I think we could see though in these other photos. Let's see. Maybe not super well, but looks like still a little bit of seam line there on the top of the beam rifle as well too. So I recommend maybe just trying to wipe that out. You know, obviously next time. This one's already done, right? So not a lot you can do with it at this point, but yeah. As far as posing it, yeah, definitely this is one that would look good posed up a little bit nicer. And also on a base, yeah, I think putting this up on a custom base would look pretty cool. Getting a nice, like, simple kind of classy base, because like for like a special kit like this, you know, putting it into like a realistic scene. If you put this into like I don't know, because it's a space mobile suit. I don't know if you built it into like this like custom like diorama scene, like vignette of like a broken piece of like a colony sort of like floating in space, and then the Shinanju there. So you have like this really realistic base, and then this kit on top of it. It's going to look a bit weird. So I think just a very like simple, classy kind of like display base that's not meant to look like an actual like realistic scene. You know what I mean? So just like a nice wood block base, or it doesn't necessarily have to be like wood color. It could just be white or something. I wouldn't use black. I think it wouldn't really look good on a black base. I would use something lighter colored, something white or just wood tone. I think would look nice, something for that. And then you just have just a rod to hold it up, or could use the arm of an action base or something, I guess too. But I think just a good. It's a pretty big, heavy kit. So even a 3mm thick like brass rod would be maybe a little bit dodgy for something like that. So I don't know. You have to sort that out, how to hold that up, but maybe don't even need to have it held up, just have it standing on the block. I think would be all right, but you just need to adjust the pose a little bit to just get that nice strong power stance there for it. But there you have it. All right, last one here is from Jonathan. Let's get these opened up. And Jonathan with a very strong entry in the Mechatro contest as well too. Jonathan, really liked your entry. It was one of the runners-up in the Mechatro contest. Let me bring this up for you guys. There we are. So this is the RE100 Bawu kit, obviously. And painted, it's originally it's more orangey, so he's gone a little bit more red in color, obviously. Well, let's check the email. Don't go off just making assumptions. We don't need to, because we've got an email here with not a lot of information. He said no modifications except for adding the red glass on the gun sight I also did the base from dollar store materials and leftover decals. I love this RE100, and I hope the line is not dead. Yeah, well, I feel you on that. I hope the RE100 line is not dead, but so just simple base like that there with a rod, as I was just mentioning, could be a good way to display the Shanju. But like I said, for that one, I think maybe not black for the base, but for this one, it works well enough. Just simple there. And he said he added, the only thing he added was in the beam rifle. So I think this just added this little piece there for the red camera bit there on the beam rifle. Otherwise, it's just the stock kit without any modifications or anything, just custom painted. And custom in that he I think basically just changed the red, changed like the orangish color to a more red color. Basically, I think it's like the real major change. I think the shield's a little bit different too, right? I don't remember having that much yellow on the shield as far as I can recall, but looks pretty good. Obviously, you got a nice pre-shading on there as well too, which looks nice under that red. That's the pre-shading is not too, it's not too harsh in most places. I think like here on the backpack on those fuel tanks, you can see maybe the pre-shading is a bit harsh there, a little bit stark in its contrast, but otherwise mostly it looks pretty good there for that. It is like it's almost kind of like a 80s kind of style pre-shading where it's very obvious in pre-shading, and it's maybe a little bit more contrasty, a little bit more stark than like what maybe a lot of people would go for nowadays. I think the style is to make it a little bit more subtle these days. This is definitely seems like a little bit more kind of like older 80s, 90s kind of style where it wasn't quite meant to look as subtle. So there's certainly a style of that, right? And so I don't know if that was intentional by Jonathan or not, but hey, what's going on, Brian? I'm glad you made it. Sorry, Brian, we looked at yours already way back, so you can watch the playback a little bit later. Sorry you missed watching it live. But anyway, yes, the Bawu does look very nice here. So just a little bit of white decals, just a few here and there. Look pretty nice. This doesn't have a ton, and I think it looks. If you're going to use white on red, it's they're obviously popping quite a bit. Especially with the red looking kind of like a little bit kind of dark red because of the pre-shading, it's quite dark. And to have white for the panel for the decals, they're going to pop a lot. And if there was a lot of white decals on there, it wouldn't really look good, I think. But because they're pretty sparse, they're just really only a couple here and there. It looks good. You could have very easily gone over and had too many whites. If you have too many of these just little white popping accents all over the place everywhere on that dark color, I think it wouldn't have looked quite as nice. But because he kept it pretty minimal, they look good on there. They're not really super noticeable, really. So yeah, as always, Jonathan, I mean, the painting looks good. Everything's nice. The posing is good too. Even though it's a painted kit, and I was saying that at least for myself, I like to keep my painted kits just fixed in one pose, but he's got it in a couple different poses here, basically just kind of flying, floating there, and then the shooting pose as well too. So trying out a couple poses with that, but they both look nice, and it's nice simple stands, just dollar store material, as he said. So good on you for being thrifty and what's that? Anyway, using good parts for that. What's the word? Damn. Not economical. Or you're utilizing cheap products in a efficient, like good way. What's the word I'm trying to think of? I don't know. Sorry, but you guys know what I mean. It's not economical. That's not exactly the right thing, but anyway, otherwise, yeah, not really too much else to say about that, Jonathan. I like it. It's nice. I'm also a big fan of the RE kits, so it's cool to see painted ones every now and then. Don't really see them all that often, I feel like. Not as much as I'd like to. Resourceful, Shakur, yeah, resourceful, yeah, I don't know if that's This is Geek Eric Stingy. No, not what I was thinking. I think resourceful is probably more right on it. It's resourceful. Good. Yes. Way to be resourceful. Work with what you've got. These cheap, simple products you can get from the dollar store and make it look good. There you go. And just a little bit of mask painting on there and a couple of decals just to make it look a little bit nicer. Don't have to do anything too crazy, just to give it a little simple base to be on. Cool. I'm sure this was a fun, just relatively simple, quick project to work on, just to paint up, set it on a base, and enjoy it. My favorite kind of project. So very cool. All right, Jonathan, thank you. And thank you guys for hanging out. That is all of our entries for today. We had a good amount of them. So again, just if you guys are coming in later, if you missed the intro at the start, these critique videos are for my Patreon supporters. So if you'd like to submit works for any future episodes, just check out my Patreon page there. It's just Zach Aurelius on Patreon, and you can join up if you want to become a member. Greatly appreciate the support from all those guys. And again, just a reminder too, we have our Discord there as well too. So becoming a Patreon supporter gets you access to that as well too. So I see I'm still lagging, still looking strange. It's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. If I move really fast, will it look like my head is cut in half? A little bit. Yeah, it's weird anyway. So, all right. Here's a little work in progress of mine. I can show you guys. I'm working on the Bond dock. It's almost done. All the decals and panel lining is done with that. There's like the main marking. You can see my kind of camo pattern painted on there. So only really thing I have left to do on this is a little bit of filtering. So I was gonna do this tonight after the stream, but I'm kind of tired and it's late, so I think I'm gonna go home and I'll work on this some more on Monday. It needs some top coat on that, then a little bit of filtering on it, and it's pretty much done. I need to work on a simple base for that as well too, but excited to show that to you guys. And if you guys have a minute, can you stick around for just a minute? I'll show you something else cool as well too. That's not the only thing I've been painting. I also painted up one of these guys, the Ultraman Zero. I painted it with the inspiration of the motorcycle bike from Akira. Just this bright glossy red with some decals just like stuck around on there to make it look like it just meant like a kind of cyberpunk sticker just kind of placed around on there. So anyway, I'll do a video on this. I just painted it up for a quick, fun, little simple project. Something fun to do. I love painting those Ultraman kits. They're very cool. So I'll do a video on that. You guys will see that properly on my channel soon enough, as well as my Castfalls Gundam painted Beyond Global kit as well too. I need to record a video on that as well too. So I've got a couple of painted kits here and a couple of other kits that are like on the verge of being done as well too. So next week you guys might see like 3 or 4 like finished build videos, like painted build videos on my channel. So something to look forward to, and you guys can let me know your thoughts and your critiques on my work soon enough. So I'll share those with you guys soon. And then I also got the review for the Heavy Arms Custom and the review for the Fenice Rinashita Alba. Well, I'll live build the Fenice Rinashita Alba. I was planning on doing that on Monday morning, but I think probably not. I won't have it ready in time. So probably Tuesday morning. That'll be Tuesday morning my time. If you're in the US, that's Monday evening will be the next live stream. That'll be live building the Fenice Rinashita Alba master grade kit. And then I'll review that one as well too. And then I think the next kit I'm going to be building for review after that is going to be the, where'd it go? V2 Assault Buster master grade as well. So some cool stuff to work on. And then not too long after that, next week, first week of December, the Wing Verka will be here, and I can have some fun with that. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Again, thank you to my lovely Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome, and just love hanging out with you guys in the Discord as well too. And thank you for submitting your works for the critiques. So till next time, till next month will be the next episode of this, sometime in December. I'll let you guys know when that's going to be. But till then, goodbye, everyone. Good night. I hope you're having a great weekend and have a great rest of the weekend. And I'll see y'all soon. Goodbye, everyone. Okay.